a new four-part docuseries about a suburban school scandal and student privacy. Director and executive producer Jody McVeigh Schultz here to chat all about it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Since the pandemic, I think it's been pretty commonplace for kids to have laptops at school. But in 2010, this was kind of a unique situation.
Yeah, they were kind of at the forefront of giving technology directly to kids. Every single high schooler in this school district got a laptop. And it was a nice laptop, right? A
Yeah.
MacBook, right? And so they were trying to use software to make sure none of them got stolen or lost. Um, but that software was a lot more aggressive than I think anyone could possibly have imagined. You know, somebody that was in our documentary said, look, this was like trying to kill a fly with a bazooka. The software that was being used could take a picture every 15 minutes of whatever was in front of the webcam. And so kids are bringing these into their bedroom, sometimes even into the bathroom to, listen to music while they're taking a shower. And the idea that no one told anyone that, hey, the webcams might be turned on, is really disturbing because you really have no idea what's going to be in front of that camera.
Yeah, especially now, you think about every device that you use, there's probably some type of monitoring software, all the time where the schools might send out, but this really kind of changed the landscape because as you mentioned, you never know what kind of situation every 15 minutes you're going to catch a student in. And that kind of calls into, a lot of questions and, a part of the law that maybe they didn't think about beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, the FBI got involved in this because they were worried, like, what is going on? There are minors. You don't know what state of undress they might be in. It's really dangerous. And they didn't know who also had access to all of these photos that were being gobbled up by this software. And what's interesting is this took place back in 2010, and now today you mentioned the pandemic. Kids getting their own devices all the time. Now AI is being used to record everything that you're typing on your school account. And so the sort of current iteration of this is students thinking that they're in private chats or private emails on their school account. And actually, it's going through a software, it's alerting their principal, maybe law enforcement. Yeah, pretty sort of terrifying implications, I think.
That was one of my questions that I had, for later, as far as like tips for parents and students
Yeah.
to have those conversations, especially, as we're wrapping up the school year or beginning a new one, just of, what you're putting on there and especially on a school, own device.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think surveillance is going away. Obviously, schools are, you know, you know, asked to protect students, from harming each other, themselves. And this is a difficult place to be put in, but we should be having conversations about how students are being surveilled, right? And so you need to read the form you get when your kids get a laptop, the one that you're signing. Um, and we need to be aware of who is using software that is really monitoring everything you're doing. Um, so those conversations need to be happening. And we even followed some students in Minnesota who ended up changing the laws around what surveillance software could be used in Minnesota. And it eventually prevented this kind of software from being used in public high schools.
I want to say, obviously now, things can be posted online and something can be shared and go viral in just moments. Talk
Yeah.
a little bit about this because this was kind of before that big boom of social media and just how throughout the day from when the lawsuit was filed, just how it got into the community and became a national story.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It was kind of at the very beginning of Facebook. So it's when kids were using their Facebook walls kind of like a private chat. It's like, oh, parents will never be on Facebook. This is fine. This is perfectly private. And then, of course,
Yeah.
that is not how it sort of ended up, playing out. But I will say, part of what we're telling is the story of, 15-year-olds who became the center of a media firestorm. Blake Robbins, who was the main person who realized he was being surveilled and then ended up suing his school. At one point, his friend says, "Google yourself," and he goes, "All right, I'll Google myself." And all of a sudden, this deluge of stories, and we're trying to get inside the mind of a 15-year-old. What's that like to have all of a sudden all of the spotlights on you, you know?
Oh yeah, exactly. And just, how you deal with what's going on in the world, what's going on in the school, and kind of navigating, obviously adults have a different perspective versus someone who's
Yeah.
getting this for the first time, being able to communicate with their friends in a different way. Definitely a series you definitely want to go ahead and check out. It's a fascinating story. It definitely has shaped our culture in so many different ways. Spy High, the 4-part series coming out next week on Prime Video.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for people to see it.
Yeah, definitely is a nail biter. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.